Hi, everyone. A great thanks, first of all, a great thanks to Internet Days for this opportunity to speak. I am DOUKHA from ANEC GE. Today, I will be talking about standards for cloud security. The presentation will cover the challenges of cloud computing in general and security in particular, and how technical standardization is important in this area. And finally, I will be telling you actually about Luxembourg market's role in the standardization ecosystem. But first, let's talk about cloud computing in general. So, cloud computing, previous slide, please. Well, so cloud computing is a technological capability to use IT infrastructure and services that are not installed in a local computer or server. And it's characterized by a broad network access where the resources are available over a network and accessed through standard mechanisms. The use of cloud services can be monitored, controlled, reported, and billed. This is an important feature to optimize and validate the delivered cloud service. The cloud computing offers an on-demand self-service tool where the customer can provision computing capabilities as needed automatically or with minimal interaction with the cloud service provider. Another feature is elasticity and scalability, where the physical or virtual resources can be rapidly and elastically adjusted, in some cases automatically, to quickly increase or decrease resources. Next slide, please. Due to all these characteristics, the adoption of cloud computing by companies is increasing year after year. According to Grand View Research, the global cloud computing market size was valuated at $274 billion in 2020 and is expected to have an annual growth of 19% from 2020 for 2021 to 2028. And of course, with this rapid growth of cloud computing, many challenges and concerns affect both providers and users and may also affect or influence the adoption rate of cloud computing services. Next slide, please. So, among these challenges, we have controlling cloud costs. Actually, cloud cost optimization continues to be a top rated concern. Certainly, as we move more and more workloads to the cloud, it's easier to lose sight of big pictures and associated costs. While the pay as you go model of cloud computing brings significant opportunities for savings, it also requires new approaches to optimize waste and optimize spending. Another challenge is the migration of data and application. It refers to a situation where the cost of switching to a different vendor is so high and the customer is essentially stuck with the original vendor. It's make the clients depend upon a particular cloud service provider. And among many challenges, we have security and privacy, which is one of the major concerns in cloud computing. Since the management of data and infrastructure in cloud computing is provided by a third party, it's consistently risky to give the sensitive data and information to such providers. Although the vendor of cloud computing guarantee extra secure password protected accounts and many other security protocols. Next slide, please. But which is really important to know is the allocation of security responsibilities between the cloud service provider and the cloud service customer, because not all of them are under the responsibility of the cloud service provider. These responsibilities are allocated based on the services models. For example, in an infrastructure as a service framework, the cloud provider is completely responsible for the physical resources and shares responsibilities with the customer for the security of the host infrastructure and network. All the risks are under the responsibility of the customer. This level brings the customer the most freedom, but also places the majority of responsibilities in their hands. And like in platform as a service framework, the provider shares responsibility with the customer at the application and access control levels. And finally, in a software as a service framework, the provider takes full responsibility of application controls while sharing responsibility with the customer of access control. Next slide, please. So, as any technology, cloud computing has a number of cybersecurity threats that can cause all sorts of problems for cloud system. So it's important to understand exactly where your system could be at risk and what you can do about it. So here we have a non-exhaustive list of the key cybersecurity threats that could affect your cloud computing services. One of the most damaging threats of cloud computing is denial of service attack. This can shut down your cloud services and make them unavailable for both your users and customers. We have also insecure applications, crypto checking, and plenty of other security threats. I cannot mention all of them today. Actually, most of cybersecurity threats come in the form of outsider attack. But this issue is one caused by a problem inside the company, which means a lack of best practices related to security adopted by enterprises. Many standards are here to solve such challenges related to cloud computing, security, and IT in general. And companies are not aware about the importance of technical standards in sharing the security process of their companies. Next slide. Here we have some examples of international standards related to security and privacy. And I will tell you the importance of security standards. Actually, a security standards is a document that establishes a common language and provides requirements, specifications, guidelines, or other precise criteria that can be used consistently to facilitate integration and interoperability, ensure efficiency of security, enables meaningful comparison of measures, and also reduce complexity. The goal of security standards is to improve the security of information technology systems, network, and critical infrastructures. The well-written cybersecurity standards enable consistency among product developers and serve as a reliable standard for purchasing security products. Actually, the security standards are generally provided for all organizations, small, medium, or large. Actually, it's regardless of their size or the industry and the sector in which they operate. And this is in order to ensure the security process in companies. Next slide, please. So, what is the importance of technical standardization anyway? Actually, there are two axes. The technical, oh, there are two axes of technical standardization. The first is the application of technical standards, and second, the participation in standards drafting process. As I mentioned, standards are a set of good practices or requirements to bring certain level of quality in solving a port problem. They are never mandatory in their application. It could be the case that a law mandates the use of standards, but this will never come from the standard itself. Second, we have participating in standards drafting. This is also voluntary work, obviously, but it has many benefits. You can anticipate market requirements by having a live monitoring of the developments of standards, of draft standards. You you can actually shape market requirements by directing and contributing in the content of the standards. It allows you to evaluate your know-how as a good practices which could serve as a reference in your sector of activity. So standardization here is not just a quality aspect, but really an economic one. Those who set the standards set the market, and this can be at a global level. Next slide, please. Actually, Luxembourg has released the importance of standards and standardization. So there is a national standardization strategy 2020-2030 led by illness and signed by the Minister of Economy, which identify the ICT sector as one of the most relevant for national economic growth. The strategy aims to promote and strengthen the use of technical standards by national markets to reinforce the position of Luxembourg in the global ICT standardization landscape, particularly through a strong involvement of national stakeholders in the relevant standardization technical committees. Next slide, please. So, all of these activities are conducted by your national standard body UNAS, a public administration under the authority of the Minister of Economy. ILNAS is supported by the Economic Interest Group ANEC. These are your standardization partner in Luxembourg, giving the market a say in the major standardization organizations ISO, IEC, CEN, CENELEC, ETSI, and ITUT. Next slide, please. So, what is your part in all of this? First, you can use standards, whether these are for your products, affecting your core business, or your internal process. And also, you can influence standards by becoming a national delegate free of charge in committees from ISO, IAC, CEN, and CENELEC, and decide what your level of participation should be, and of course, based on your needs. You can simply comment draft or contribute as well during the process of project development. And as a delegate, you represent the market's position. Again, illness is a gateway, a facilitator to make your voice heard. You can also, previous slide please. You can also gain an education in standardization. We can support you in understanding more about the role of delegates, understanding how the system works, and all the information related to technical standardization. And among the most recent developments, ILNAS has created through a collaboration with with the University of Luxembourg a new MTech Master on Smart ICT. This diploma will allow national stakeholders to gain familiarity with smart, secure ICT technologies and standardization in order to seize the fruit in this innovative area. Next slide, please. And to give you a bit idea about some existing technical committees, here we have a breakdown of the ICT technical subcommittees within ISO IEC GTC1 that is dedicated to information technology like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, software engineering, and so on. And of course, we have the AC38, which focuses in standardization in the area of cloud computing and distributed platform, which include foundational concepts and technologies, operational issues, and interaction among cloud computing and distributed systems. And also, we have the SC27, which focuses on the development of standards for the adoption of information and ICT, and this includes generic methods, techniques, and guidelines to address both security and privacy aspects. And there are plenty of other technical committees. Next slide, please. And of course, to have more information about that, don't hesitate to get in touch with any Annex Projects officer to organize a simple information session where we will answer all of your questions. Thank you so much.